Welcome to Farida's Recipes. Hi everyone, today we're making island chicken soup. The list of ingredients will be listed below. I'm going to start off without showing the actual ingredients. So we have a pot, bottom heavy pot, 2 tablespoons of oil. I chose to use coconut oil in this one, and 1 white onion chopped, 2 stalks of celery chopped, which is going to go once the onions start to brown a little bit and soften up, and 1 carrot shredded. I don't chop or cut the carrots. I find them too tough to cut down into pieces, so I shred them or grate them with a cheese grater. And let all of this saute in the oil. It will take a few minutes for it to turn a little golden brown. It doesn't necessarily have to. If you like the texture of a softer, mushier feel in the soup, then you can just let it sweat out for a little while and then use it, or you could fry it up a little bit and then use it. I just let it sweat a little bit. Sometimes I leave it on for too long and it just starts to fry. So let all of the flavors just start to mix with these 3 ingredients first in the oil. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but it's already softening up a little bit. At this point, I just put on the lid and let it cook for a bit. And I remove the lid about a minute and a half after. Add some grated ginger and minced garlic. So it's about a thumb-sized piece of ginger and about 5 cloves of garlic. I like to use the fresh garlic and mince it right over top. You can buy the ones that are in the bottle that's already minced, but they do tend to have a slightly different, slightly milder flavor of garlic. So it's really up to you. If you really like the garlic, use the fresh ones instead. Once the garlic is all scraped and minced into the mixture, mix it all up. Get the flavors blended together. At this point, you can see most of that onion is browned, and same with some of the celery. Just give it a really, really good mix all the way through. And when it looks like this, I'm going to add about 2 cups of pumpkin. It's usually like one of those thin slices of pumpkin. I don't remove all of the skin from the pumpkin. It is a bit tough, but I dice it into little less than 1 inch, maybe 2 centimeter to 1.5 centimeter cubes. Add it all in to this mixture. Give it a really good whirl again, get it all mixed up, and then you're going to put the lid on top and let it cook. You don't have to add any water because the pumpkin has water in it already. All that water will draw out a little bit and it'll get tender and soft. But just mix it up, put the lid on, and let it cook for a few minutes. Also, remember to lower the heat from medium to between medium and low. At this point, this is about 3 to 4 minutes, 3 minutes after I've let the pumpkin cook with the lid on. Sometimes it might take longer depending on how much you're putting in there. If you mush it, you'll see that the pumpkin mushes up a little bit. And I go ahead and mush some of the pumpkin down because I want this pumpkin to be part of the base of the soup and not necessarily the bits of the vegetables in the soup. And then at this point, I add my chicken. I have here 5 chicken legs and about 4 chicken thighs, skin removed, most of the fat removed, and cut into about 2-inch pieces. Once again, stir it all up, get all the flavors mixed together, and as you're stirring, you can see that the pumpkin is basically falling apart. It's turning into a mushy texture, which is what you really want. Although you'll have a few pumpkin pieces to bite into when you eat the soup, most of it will become part of the base. Now I'm going to start adding some seasoning. Now, keep in mind, I am Sri Lankan, so I go heavy on the spices and heavy on the seasoning because my taste buds are so numb from eating so much spice that I can't taste it if there isn't an overwhelming amount. But use what you like. I used here half a teaspoon of oregano, half a teaspoon of thyme, a teaspoon of parsley, very little bit of basil. I know that's a lot of combination there. But it's really up to you with the herbs. I used all the dry ones because I'm putting them in ahead of time. And that way they're going to just, infuse into the stock as I cook. That was half a teaspoon of paprika. And I actually add about half to 3/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Of course, you don't want the spices to be so overwhelming that you can't taste the base and the other, the garlic and the ginger and all the other flavors that are in the soup. So it's mellow it down more than you normally would. Add 2 to 3 bay leaves. That will add some flavor as well. Now, I should have technically waited until I added the stock to put the bay leaves in, because you can end up crushing them when you're doing this next step, and that is to mix all of the these herbs and ingredients into the chicken and the base of the soup. Before you add the stock, mix it all up just so that, each chicken piece and the base of it gets a bit of it infused. So it's always better to add the bay leaves after you put the stock in. At this point, I pour into the mixture my homemade stock. There is a recipe on this channel. It is the beef bone broth, but you can literally make the exact same thing with any type of bone broth. It could be chicken bones, mutton bones, goat bones, lamb bones, whatever you prefer, turkey bones. It's bone broth. So I make it at home myself. I don't buy store-bought stock, mostly because I don't like anything in my stock that I cannot pronounce or don't know what it is. And I also don't like too much sodium in it. I like to control the amount of salt I put into my mixture. I put enough stock to go just above my chicken. I don't add any cornstarch or flour into this mixture as a thickening agent. You can do that. It will give it a little bit of extra. I like my soup to be a little soupy and not too creamy. So at this point, I put the lid back on and I bring it to a boil and then lower it and let it simmer for about 20 minutes. Now, after about 20 minutes, I remove the lid and you can see that a lot of the fat has separated from the water a little bit, and you can see like a little bit of, oils in there. In this soup, I'm adding about 2 cups of long green beans, but normally I would add about 2 cups of okra in this recipe. I prefer the okra. I just didn't have that on hand at the time, so I used the green beans. The green beans, I found out later, don't need to be cooked for as long as the okra, so I am letting this boil for another 20 minutes because after all, it is chicken and you want to make sure that your chicken is thoroughly cooked always. But I would recommend use okra instead of green beans. So now it's been boiling for about, well, not boiling, but I bring it to a boil and then let it simmer for about 15 minutes or so. Don't let it simmer on too low. Leave it at medium. At this point, when the green beans are getting a little bit softer or the okra is getting a little bit softer and the chicken is pretty much cooked through, this is when I add the dumplings. I will leave a link below for how I make the dumplings that go in my soup. But it's basically, flour, salt, baking powder, etc. into tiny little 1.5-inch balls. I drop them in and then I cover the lid and let those cook as well. When they're ready, they will come up to the top of the water, but you let it cook a little bit longer for about 3 minutes or so longer to make sure that they're thoroughly cooked. I think I put in about 10 to 12 dumplings into this soup. I don't think I mentioned how much stock I used. It's about 4 to 5 cups of stock in this pot, just to come over above about 1 inch or 2 centimeters above the chicken. When the dumplings are finished, open the lid and let the water reduce a little bit. And this will allow for your soup to thicken also if you don't want to add thickening agents to it. And so let it boil out for about 3 minutes to 4 minutes. Now the soup is done. Make sure to fish out the bay leaves. You do not want to bite into those things. They're not very tasty. Also, to finish, if you want to add some pepper, go ahead. I add the salt at this point. You can add some salt during the process when you're putting the pumpkins in just to draw out the moisture, but it's really up to you. I always add the salt at the end. And so here you have it. Island chicken soup with dumpling, very flavorful liquid, and chicken. If you guys like this recipe, please make sure to click like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.